There's a peculiar heaviness that follows those who think too much. You've probably felt it. The strange burden of carrying questions that don't have easy answers. To walk through life, seeing not just the surface of things, but the layers beneath, the symbols, the contradictions, the shadows. For most people, the world is simply there, but for the deep thinker, the world is a riddle that refuses to be solved. And this video is about that type of mind, the kind of mind Carl Jung, one of history's most influential psychologists, both studied and embodied. Jung believed that deep thinkers walk dangerously close to madness, but that they also hold the keys to transformation. And to understand them, to understand yourself, if you happen to be one, we must journey into Jung's world, his life, his psychology, and the haunting truths he uncovered about what it means to be human. Section 1. The Making of a Deep Thinker. Carl Gustav Jung was born in 1875 in Switzerland into a home that straddled the mystical and the rational. His father was a pastor, tethered to Christian tradition, while Jung himself was haunted by dreams and visions that seemed to spill in from some other world. As a child, he was introspective, lonely, and deeply imaginative. He wasn't just reading stories. He was living in symbols. Imagine young Jung sitting at his desk carving a small wooden figure that he hid in a box, whispering secrets to it like some ancient god. He later called this act his first significant secret, a symbolic connection to the unconscious mind he would one day devote his life to studying. The seed of the deep thinker is often planted in childhood, in solitude, in those who feel the world press in on them too strongly. Dostoyevsky once said, "The soul is healed by being with children," but Jung's childhood was more of a confrontation with inner demons than a playful escape. His early isolation and visions were both a curse and a gift, the first notes of the symphony that would define his life. Section 2. Breaking from Freud. Fast forward, Jung enters the world of psychiatry, where he becomes a protégé of Sigmund Freud. At first, Freud saw Jung as his heir, the one who would carry psychoanalysis into the future, but Jung was never one to follow blindly. Where Freud emphasized the raw drives of sex and aggression, Jung believed the psyche was far richer, more symbolic, more spiritual. He saw the unconscious not as a sewer of repressed desires, but as a vast living ocean filled with archetypes, myths, and timeless patterns. The break between Jung and Freud wasn't just academic, it was existential. Jung once wrote that the split sent him into a deep crisis, where he feared he might lose his mind. Yet in that chaos he discovered what Dostoyevsky's characters so often reveal, that breakdown can be a doorway, suffering can be a threshold to deeper understanding. Section 3. The Shadow. One of Jung's most famous ideas is the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny, repress, or hide. For the deep thinker, the shadow is often larger than life. Why? Because the more we analyze, the more we see what lies beneath the mask. Think of Raskolnikov from Crime and Punishment, a man of intellect, obsessed with the idea that he is extraordinary, above morality. Yet his crime, his guilt, his torment, they reveal his shadow, the part of him he cannot escape. Jung argued that confronting the shadow is essential. To look at the darkness in yourself without flinching is the path to individuation, the process of becoming whole. For the deep thinker, this is both the blessing and the curse, to be so aware of one's own contradictions that life itself becomes an endless mirror. Section 4. Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious. Jung went further. He proposed that deep thinkers often tap into something larger than themselves, the collective unconscious. This is not your personal memory, but a vast reservoir of symbols, myths, and archetypes that humanity shares. Why do we dream of heroes, wise old men, tricksters, and lovers, no matter where we're born? Jung believed these archetypes live in us all, shaping our imagination. For deep thinkers, this becomes a double-edged sword. On one hand, they see connections that others miss. A dream isn't just a dream, but a message. A story isn't just fiction, but an eternal pattern. On the other hand, this symbolic vision can isolate them. While others enjoy the surface of life, deep thinkers often drown in its meanings. Like Ivan Karamazov in The Brothers Karamazov, who wrestled not only with his own suffering, but with the suffering of humanity as a whole, deep thinkers live in the tension of the personal and the universal. Section 5. The burden of awareness. Jung often warned that to become conscious is a terrible burden. Most people are content to live in ignorance, but deep thinkers cannot. They see too much. This is the Dostoyevskian tragedy, the curse of over-awareness. The ability to peel back the veil and realize that life is both profoundly meaningful and terrifyingly absurd. Deep thinkers may wrestle with depression, alienation, and even madness. Jung himself nearly broke under the weight of his inner visions. He spent years recording his dreams in what later became known as the Red Book, a manuscript filled with vivid drawings, dialogues with archetypes, and mystical encounters. He called it his confrontation with the unconscious. But out of that confrontation came his greatest insights. Jung believed that to survive as a deep thinker, you must not reject the unconscious. You must learn to dialogue with it, to see it not as an enemy, but as a guide. Section 6. Deep thinkers in today's world. Now let's shift to today. What does it mean to be a deep thinker in the 21st century? In an age of distraction where every moment is consumed by notifications, endless scrolling, and shallow connections, the deep thinker is more alienated than ever. Jung might say that modern people are losing their symbolic imagination, becoming flat, mechanical, trapped in surface-level living. For the deep thinker, this world feels suffocating. They crave meaning, depth, the kind of reflection that cannot be captured in a tweet. But they also face the risk of isolation. Without balance, the mind that hungers for meaning can collapse under its own weight. Here's where Jung's psychology is most practical. Individuation, the process of integrating your shadow, your archetypes, your conscious and unconscious, isn't just theory. It's survival. For Jung, becoming whole is the antidote to despair. Section 7. Lessons from Jung for deep thinkers. So what does Jung teach us about surviving as a deep thinker? Confront your shadow. Don't deny your darkness. Accept it, understand it, and integrate it. The parts of yourself you fear most often hold the key to your growth. Honor symbols. Pay attention to your dreams, your imagination, your instincts. They are not random. They are messages from the unconscious. Seek wholeness, not perfection. Jung believed the goal of life is not to be flawless, but to be whole. Deep thinkers must embrace their contradictions instead of trying to erase them. Dialogue with the unconscious. Journaling, art, reflection. These are ways to engage the unconscious mind. Like Jung's Red Book, your own creative work can be a conversation with your inner depths. Stay grounded. Even as you wrestle with eternal questions, you must remain connected to life. Relationships, work, and even small joys are anchors that prevent you from drowning in abstraction. Section 8. Dostoyevsky and Jung, the meeting of minds. It's remarkable how closely Jung's psychology echoes Dostoyevsky's characters. Both saw the human soul as divided, tormented, yet yearning for redemption. Dostoyevsky's Raskolnikov is a man shadowed by his intellect. Ivan Karamazov is consumed by the suffering of the world. Jung would say both are examples of men in the grip of the unconscious, lost because they refused integration. Deep thinkers risk the same fate. To think deeply without also living deeply is to fall into despair. But when thought is balanced with wholeness, when intellect is joined with imagination, when the shadow is integrated, then thought becomes not just a burden, but a gift. Section 9. What it means for you. If you're watching this video, chances are you know the pain of thinking too much, of staring at the ceiling late at night, wondering about life, death, and meaning, while others sleep soundly. You may feel cursed, as though you were born carrying a weight you cannot set down. But here is Jung's message. That burden is also your path. To carry it consciously is to transform it, to engage with your shadow, your unconscious, your depth. This is not just psychology. It is a spiritual journey. The world does not need fewer deep thinkers. It needs more of them. Awake, integrated, and willing to walk the line between madness and meaning. Jung's challenge to us. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Deep thinkers are those who look inside, and in doing so, they awaken not only to their own depths, but to the depths of humanity itself. But awakening is not easy. It demands courage, honesty, and the willingness to confront what most people avoid. Jung believed that in the end, the task of the deep thinker is not simply to analyze the world, but to transform it, by first transforming themselves. So ask yourself, are you willing to confront your own shadow, to embrace the burden of awareness, to see symbols in the chaos and meaning in the madness? Because if you are, then you are walking the path Jung mapped out. The path of individuation, the path of wholeness, the path of the deep thinker. And perhaps in a distracted world that fears silence and avoids reflection, walking that path is the most revolutionary act of all.